top 2 books you guys think that I should buy, and then I will buy them. And I'll probably throw in a couple of my own. No DNA, no missing persons, no nothing. Ignore that. I was 100% talking and not recording my screen. So here we go. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be something I have never done before, and I am going to take you book shopping with me through my computer, through my wish lists across multiple sites, because I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars of books on my wish list. I'm not buying all of them, don't get me wrong. So I actually got this video idea from Lindsay, from Lindsay's Little Library, and I was telling her, I was like, I literally have books like across multiple carts and I don't know what to do. And she was like, you should turn it into a video and have people vote. And I was like, that's genius. So my caveat for this is when you're voting on the books that I should get, don't pay attention to where they're physically, like which cart they're in for the sake of this video, because part of it is, I'm trash for a cover buy, like you guys know, so it's in Book Depository. Honestly, Amazon is just an easy place to track my wish list, so there's a whole bunch of books in there. And the bookshop.org ones, not every indie bookstore always has every book. So sometimes I can't always get the book I want from the bookshop I want to get it in, but I'm definitely gonna buy something from Amazon because I have a gift card. I am gonna support some of my favorite local bookstores as well, depending on who's got what. And then there might be a cover buy that comes out of this, which means it's gonna come out of Book Depository. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record my screen and I'm gonna record me talking about it, and I'm gonna try and put this together in a video that makes some kind of sense. But by the time you're seeing it, you're gonna see how it turns out. So let's just get into the shopping. Let's jump into bookshop.org. And if you have not shopped through them, they support indie booksellers around the US. And you have 2 ways of shopping through them. You can just shop generally and they will link up with a bookstore and then send you your books and support an indie bookstore. Or you can specifically look for a bookstore, either one that you already know, or maybe one in your state, or in a state or city that you want to support. So I will list down below the bookshops, the indie bookstores that I personally like to support, and not that you have to support any of these places, but if you're not sure or you're looking for one that you want to support, I will link those down below in case you guys are curious. But you do you. I'm just sharing all my info, but you're here for the cart, so let's talk cart. So Girls with Bright Futures, I talked about this in February. This is a bunch of girls trying to get into Stanford, and their moms will basically do anything to get one of them in because they're only accepting one of the girls, and there's an accident. It's not really an accident that happens to one of the daughters, and this is basically crazy ass moms. The project, this has got cult vibes. Talked about this in February as well. 2 sisters, the older sister joins what's kind of a cult, but maybe not a cult, but kind of a cult, and the younger one who's trying to expose it. This Close to Okay, February talked about this one. This is about 2 people who meet one weekend, and the female protagonist is a therapist, and then she is driving home one night and she sees this man on a bridge kind of too close to the edge. Her antenna goes up. She manages to convince him to come get a cup of coffee, and it is a weekend that will change both of their lives and heal both of them. That's what the inside flap had said. Good Girl, Bad Girl. This is one that I don't know where this came onto my radar, but it did. It was one of those like, hey, you like dark and messed up things? Here's a book for you to check out. So this kind of has Girl A vibes in the sense that we've got a girl who is found in a house, half starved and filthy, hidden in a secret room, but nobody knows who she is. She doesn't have any DNA. She's not in a missing persons list. And I guess she doesn't remember who she is. So they give her a new name and a new life, and 6 years later, she petitions the court to be released as an adult. She's working with a forensic psychologist. He knows something's not quite right. And then he's got another murder mystery of this high school figure skater, and somehow our original girl has something to do with it. So Cyrus, our forensic psychologist, is caught between 2 cases, one girl who needs saving and another who needs justice. What price will he pay for the truth? Emotionally explosive, swiftly paced. There we go. Next up, Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This came out in January and I 100% missed it from my radar. I don't know why I had it in my head it was coming out later this year, but this is the prequel to The Hate U Give, and this focuses on Maverick, who is Star's father. And this takes place in the late 90s. I want to say it's when her brother is being born and when Maverick decides he needs to get out of the gang and he needs to get out of that life and start a clean, fresh life with his wife. So he gets out, but he gets pulled back in. So this is Maverick's story. I was listening to, shocker, shocker, a podcast with Angie Thomas, and it just got me even more excited. And I love the 90s, and I'm very interested to hear more about Maverick's story. I really enjoyed him as a character, and I think this will be a really interesting origin story. The Girls I've Been by Tess Sharp. This is her newest book, obviously. Talked about this in February. And this is about a girl who was raised by a con artist. And I think she's probably a little bit of a con artist herself. And her girlfriend and her ex-boyfriend, who are all friends, wind up going to a bank together because they need to deposit some money. And then the bank gets robbed and they are trapped in the bank with the bank robbers. Says the bank robbers may be trouble, but Nora's something else entirely. They have no idea who they're really holding hostage. So I really enjoyed Tess Sharp's book, Far From You. Excited to read more from her. The Sanatorium, isolated mystery, isolated thriller. This is French Alps, Swiss Alps, something like that. A girl goes for her, or a woman goes for her brother's engagement party, and then his fiance goes missing. Chaos ensues. The Kindest Lie. I just heard about this weekend, and this is one of those things. I saw it on a Sisters in Crime event that I was doing online, and now all of a sudden I'm seeing it absolutely everywhere. So this is 2008, and our main character, Ruth, when she was a teenager, she had a baby and gave it up for adoption. Or, yeah, gave it up for adoption. It says she had a baby when she was a teenager and was forced to leave her behind. And it says that in order to move forward, she has to make peace with her past. So Ruth swore she would never revisit her past, but she does. She goes back to her hometown, digs into it, and it's like family secrets, searing racial tensions. She befriends this boy, Midnight, and he's also looking for connection. So powerful, revealing, heartbreaking divide between Black and white communities, and offers both an unflinching view of motherhood in contemporary America and the never-ending quest to achieve the American dream. So I'm just hearing about this everywhere. My FOMO was fierce on this one. Something Happened to Ellie Greenleaf. This is a story that came out last year, also been on my radar for a long time. This is about rape culture, and Ellie is raped by her crush in high school. Basically the boy she loves more than anything, has the biggest crush on, not her boyfriend. And then he sends his best friend Blythe to make sure that Ellie doesn't say anything to anyone and he doesn't get in trouble. So he sounds like a piece of work. But this story is about Blythe and Allie, and I think their friendship, and it sounds really interesting. I was listening to a podcast, again, shocker, with the author, and I'm really intrigued by it, and I'm intrigued by the story, and intrigued by her perspective, and she talks about, you know, mistakes that were made, and it's not about his story, it's about the girls. So I'm really curious. Again, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this book, but I have a real curiosity about it. And then the last one is Before She Disappeared, and I feel like I might have mentioned this in another video. I was watching Lisa Gardner and Riley Sager do an interview on the Poison Pen when the book came out, and this is her latest book. It was supposed to be a standalone, but now it's supposed to be part of a series as well. And it's about a woman named Frankie who investigates cold cases and missing persons, and she's got a whole pile of baggage that's all her own. But it takes place outside of Boston, as a lot of Lisa Gardner's books do. And it's a girl named Angelique, a Haitian teenager who vanished from her high school months earlier. And Boston PD has been resistant, and she is there to figure out what happened. And it says Frankie will stop at nothing to discover the truth, even if it means the next person to go missing could be her. And Riley Sager was raving about it. He was raving about Frankie as a character. And I mean, if he loves it, I'm gonna love it. Okay, welcome to Book Depository, and we have 10 plus books, so let's get cracking. So first up, we have Girl A. I talked about this in my February release. This is about a family. The parents were keeping their kids hostage, basically, in the House of Horrors is what it's called. And I don't know what happens to the dad. I want to say the mom goes to jail, and it follows the oldest daughter who helped rescue all of her siblings. And it's a story about family, obviously, and I think the dynamics between the siblings, secrets, dark and gritty. Interested. The Burning Girls by CJ Tudor. I didn't talk about this. This I think just came out in the UK and is just coming out in the US. So I loved The Chalk Man. I really enjoyed The Other People. I haven't read The Hiding Place, but I was watching CJ Tudor with Abby from Crime by the Book doing an author interview, and there you go. All of a sudden I was like, this was low-key on my radar, and now it is up high on my radar. And this is like witches, and there's a vicar as the main character and his teenage daughter, and I don't even need to know what it's about. Super excited for it. The Push by Ashley Audrain. This one's getting a lot of mixed bag. This has been on my radar for a while as well. So this is about a mom, and she has a daughter and she thinks something's wrong with her, but her husband basically thinks she's being ridiculous and irrational. And then she has a son, and her son just sort of seems like the perfect kid, but there's just something that's not right about her daughter. So this just sounds super interesting. I've heard people compare it to Baby Teeth, which I never read, but I've heard mixed bag on Baby Teeth. So I don't know. Sounds kind of dark and twisted. The Killer You Know. I have no idea what this is. Woo! Gripping, compelling. Oh, what if your childhood friend turned out to be a serial killer? One of you guys just recommended this one to me. I'll murder 3 strangers and you'll know it was me. So they get together for like a reunion, and I guess one of the friends was a serial killer. Love it. That's that one. As Good as Dead. This is a super duper pre-order, so don't worry about voting for this one. Sorry, it's just in my cart. But this is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is book number 3, and this is the last book in the series, so I'm getting it. 50-50, Steve Kavanaugh, he wrote 13. This is about 2 sisters, and it says they're both on trial for murder. They accuse each other. Who do you believe? I loved 13. I thought it was amazing, so I need to read more Steve Kavanaugh. If I Disappear, this, I'm hearing mixed feedback on this book, so I'm a little less excited for this, but this was about a girl who was obsessed with true crime podcasts, and then the true crime podcaster goes missing, and she tries to find out what happened to her. So I'm hearing the ending's not so great. I don't know. I'm gonna press pause maybe on this one. Let me know if you guys have read it. I was 100% talking and not recording my screen. So here we go. Next up is The Reunion. And this is a book about a bunch of friends in high school, and one of the girls in the friend group runs off with her philosophy teacher, and that's back in 1992. And then we fast forward to 2017, where the rest of her friends are invited to high school reunion, and they haven't spoken in 25 years. And it says they know they must go back one final time. This is what gets me, because there's a dead body buried in the school, and they're the ones who put it there. I love anything from the 90s. I love high school reunions, I love college reunions, I love mysteries in the past and mysteries in the present and bringing them all together again. Love it. Can't wait, can't wait, can't wait. Next up, The Divines. I talked about this in January. There's some boarding school vibes on this. I think it's maybe more literary fiction, but I love boarding schools, so yes, please. The Girl with the Louding Voice. This has been on my radar for a bit, and it was sold out on Amazon for a while, which is why I hopped over here. And this is about a girl named Aduni. And it says she dreams of getting an education and giving her family a more comfortable home in her small Nigerian village. But then her dad sells her off to become the 3rd wife of an old man. And then tragedy strikes there. She flees, she becomes a house girl, and then prey to Big Madam's husband. But despite her situation continuously going from bad to worse, Aduni refuses to let herself be silenced, and one day somebody hears her. This is a story of courage. Her characters leap off the page, powering this funny, luminous, and heart-swelling tale. I've heard just such wonderful things about this book, and that's why it's here. Excited to read it. Next up, so I have 2 books, Louise O'Neill, and I want to say Jacqueline is the one who recommended these, or recommended this author when I was talking about my favorite books of 2020. And Louise O'Neill is an Irish author, so she's harder to come by in the US. And After the Silence, I don't even know if it's out here. So this was like a best book, here we go. Best book of the year, Irish crime novel. And we've got a wild party, a violent storm, a killer, and no one was charged with the murder. So a mystery that surrounded the death of Nessa remains hidden, but the islanders knew who to blame for the crime that changed them forever. So 10 years later, we have a documentary crew. Love it. And they're there to lift the lid off the Kinsella's carefully constructed lives, determined to find evidence that will prove Henry's guilt. I don't know who these people are, but people obviously who are part of what happened to Nessa. So bold, brilliant, disturbing new novel. Talk about buzzwords. And then the other one is Asking for It. And this is an older novel of hers. And this is exactly what it sounds like. Definitely going to be dark and heavy. And this is about rape culture. This is about slut shaming. I want to say the description says it's soul shattering. Definitely have to be in the right head frame for this. So kind of Allie Greenleaf. Yes, don't ask me why it appeals to me, but it does. Next up, I have a couple, I want to say there's a couple, Catherine Ryan Howard's in here as well. She's another Irish author. She's been on my radar for a bit also. I know I can get at least one, if not two of these from my library, but since we're here, I put them in the cart too. So Rewind is about a girl, I think it's like multiple points of view as well, but she's staying at like a bed and breakfast, and some creepazoid has cameras and stuff like in the clock, and he watches people, and I think people get murdered. I was listening to Julie from Pages and Pens just rave about Catherine Ryan Howard and how she devoured all of her books, so I'm there for it. Next up is Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is another one tons of people are talking about, and this is about a woman who, I want to say the trigger warning on this is suicide. Nora's life's been going from bad to worse. Yes, so at the stroke of midnight on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported to a library. And she's given the chance to undo her regrets and try out each of the other lives she could have lived. So it sounds very intriguing to me. I'm hearing really good things about it. There's a theme here, you guys. The Sanatorium, pretty sure this was in my other cart as well, wasn't it? Yes, I think so. Isolated mystery, isolated thriller, snowy vibes, done. And then The Nothing Man by Catherine Howard. And this one is a book within a book. And we have a girl who, I want to say she survived a serial killer. Like he killed her entire family. She survived it. And then she writes about it. And then he finds her book, and then he's reading about himself in her book. And then I'm guessing he is probably coming to get her because she's close to finding out who he is, and he's gonna make sure that that doesn't happen. So 2 stories, 1 killer, no mercy. Could I get any darker? Now we're at Amazon. So first up, Bloodline by Jess Lowry. I just picked up her first book, Unspeakable Things. I haven't read it yet. And she does twisted small town mysteries. And I think these are set in the 80s. Abby from Crime by the Book also raves about her. So I have one Jess Lowry, which I should read before I buy the second one. But I know this was an Amazon Prime free read and I missed it, and I'm kicking myself for it. But let me know if you've read it. Next up is Quit Like a Woman. This is a nonfiction book, The Radical Choice to Not Drink in a Culture Obsessed with Alcohol. So last year I read Nothing Good Will Come From This, and I loved it. And I find it, I mean, it's like hard to be like, I loved a book about drinking, but I found it really interesting, and just, there were so many things in that book that I connected to as far as, like this says, a culture obsessed with drinking, women in particular with drinking, pressure, thinking about high school and college and like all the years since. I just think it's very interesting, so I'm curious to read it. Little Threats. This is another book where I was listening to a podcast and, you know, got turned on to a book. We've got the summer of 1993. We've got twin sisters. They live in a very privileged Richmond suburb. And then one night of partying in the woods, one of the girl's best friends is murdered. Suspicion falls upon her, but she can't remember anything about the night in question. Then we fast forward to 2008. We've got some questions coming up. We've got people revisiting the murder. We've got new suspects. We've got all sorts of stuff going on. So super curious. Love that dual timeline thing. The Good Samaritan by John Mars. Don't totally know what it's about, but I loved the one, and I just need to read more John Mars. So honestly, that's why it's on here. The Golden Cage. This is another one that I'm hearing mixed stuff about, but I can't quite quit it, if you will. So this we've got sexy, over-the-top psychological thriller that tells the story of a scorned wife of a billionaire and her delicious plot to get revenge and bring him to his knees. So Faye discovers that her husband is having an affair. She's alone, she's emotionally shattered, she's financially devastated, and hell hath no fury like a woman with a violent past bent on vengeance. Has anybody read this? I'm not hearing anybody talk about this book other than Abby from Crime by the Book, who is my guru goddess when it comes to book recommendations. And now to completely switch gears, another nonfiction book, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller was the girl known as Emily Doe from the Brock Turner case that happened, and this is her story about what really happened. Again, rape culture, sexual assault, very dark, very difficult, I'm sure. I hear it's really powerful. I hear really good things about this book, and I'm very curious to read it. Lisa Gardner, When You See Me. This is her previous book that came out. It is part of a series. I hear you can read it even if you haven't read the series, and again, hearing wonderful things about it. So this has been on my radar since it came out last year. I obviously haven't pulled the trigger on it, but it's getting closer. It's in the cart. Pretty as a Picture. This is another one that I've read mixed things about, but it really just sounds interesting to me. So this is movie director, isolated island, a decades-old murder. And this one takes place on a movie set, which I think is kind of intriguing. And it's just, there's a real life murder that's the movie's central subject, and they are determined to solve it. And it said the only problem is the killer may still be on the loose and he might not be finished. So this is about the cultural addiction to tales of murder and mayhem and a thrilling behind the scenes whodunit. Again, let me know if anybody's read it. The Tenant by Katrine Engberg. So she has a new book out. I don't know if it's called The Butterfly Effect. I know there's a butterfly on the cover. And it is actually a series. So I've read like you don't need to read The Tenant, but you probably should read The Tenant. So I'm gonna try and be purist about it and read The Tenant. And this is one that was also on my radar last year and I didn't pick up. So literary suspense, and this takes place in Copenhagen. We've got two detectives assigned to a brutal murder case and intricate pattern of lines carved into her face. So it's just like dark and messed up murder in Copenhagen. Pretty Little Wife is a book that came out this year or end of last year, I want to say. So domestic suspense, shouldn't a dead husband stay dead? Sounds about right to me. So Idyllic College Town, love that. Missing Student, Small Town Uproar, Where's Their Teacher? And it says, everyone's worried except for Lila, his wife. She's confused about her missing husband, but only because she was the last person to see his body and now it's gone. So, sounds fun. Next up is Such a Fun Age, and this was a huge book last year also. And this is about a nanny and the family that she works for, who's like this rich, white, Upper East Side, I think, family in Manhattan. And our main character, Amira, is Black, and she takes the toddler for the family to the supermarket one night, and she gets accused of kidnapping the child. And this is the aftermath of that. So I hear it's a lot about the relationship with the mom, and I've heard some mixed feedback on how people feel about it, but I've also heard totally amazing things about it. So it's been on my radar. I'm curious. I would like to read it. Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. This is Lori Gottlieb's a therapist. This is her therapist, and Our Lives Revealed. I've heard wonderful things about this book. Nonfiction, been on lots of people's radar for a long time. We Were Mothers and Open House by Katie Cece? I should know because I just watched an Instagram live with her. She is a novelist who is now on my radar. So we've got a missing young woman, 10 years gone, decade-old mystery, upstate New York, and I love it. And then We Were Mothers was the book that she wrote before that. Brilliant, twisty novel about a missing woman, an unfaithful husband, and the dark secrets that will destroy two perfect families. All things I love. Oh, and here's Shiver by Ellie Reynolds. I think I said that I already got this. Here it is. So Shiver is another isolated, this is Swiss Alps, I want to say, and it's a group of friends who were snowboarders, and something happened back in the day, and they're all invited. This is 100%, and then there were none. I was listening to Allie do an interview, and she said she was completely inspired by it, and then there were none. And it's when the friends reunite on a mountaintop alone, and then find out that they were all lured there by somebody, and they're not sure who. So this is very much The Killers in the House. Thank you guys for coming book shopping with me, and I hope this was like a little bit fun. I know it's a little bit different. I don't know if it's weird to just kind of watch the screen roll by and talk wish list, but let me know if you like videos like this. Not that I'm gonna be buying books every week, but I thought it was fun to do, and I always love hearing your feedback and your ideas and your suggestions, so all good things. And it's just, I don't know, something fun, something different to do. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope everyone's doing really great, and I appreciate the voting and the hanging out and you being here and spending some of your day with me. So take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody.